So if you missed number 15, write down that what you should have done is solve for y and graph it. So number 15, you should have solved for y and graph it. So what is the solution to this system of equations? Graphed. Or which one is graphed? So this first one is already solved for y. I know that because it says y equals. This one is not, so I need to solve it. So write this down. Okay, sorry again, pause it. You need to write everything down. Let's go through and solve this. So I have x plus y equals 1. So I'm going to move my x. The opposite of a positive x is a minus x. I'm going to do minus x on both sides. So y equals, the negative x comes first, and it is a positive 1. So I'm going to go ahead and graph it. There's no point in solving all of them if number 1 is the answer, right? So I'm going to go to y equals and clear all this out. So the top one was x plus 3. That one was already solved, luckily. Saved me some time. This one's going to be negative x plus 1. Let's graph it. See what it looks like. Does this graph look like the graph that it gave me here? No, it does not. So A is wrong. A is not it. So let's try B. Again, luckily the first one's already solved for y. This one is not. So let's write it down and solve it. It says x minus y equals 1. So I need to move my x. The opposite of a positive is a negative. You should be writing this down with me. Pause it if you need to catch up. I'm going to bring down negative y. There's really a 1 there. And over here I have a negative x, and it's a positive 1. And again, there's a 1 here. Now to move this negative 1, I'm going to divide everything by negative 1. You again should be writing all of this down. So y equals negative 1 divided by negative 1. It's positive 1. Positive 1 divided by negative 1 is negative 1. So let's type those in. Because again, if B is it, there's no point in solving all the rest of them. So what do I have? Negative x plus 3. That's the one it gave me right here. And then when I solve the other one out, I got 1x minus 1. Let's graph it. Okay, and does that look like the one that it is? It sure does. That's the one that's graphed. So B is my answer. So see, I didn't even have to do C and D because when I got to B, it was the right answer. So, for number 15, I want you to show me your work for solving out A, B, C, and D until you get the right answer. Okay? So I want you to write down A. I want to see your work for how you solved for Y on A. And then type it in your calculator and graph it. If it's wrong, I want to see your work for B. I want to see the steps you did to get Y by itself for B. If B is wrong, I want to see C. I want to see the way you typed your steps in. The way you solved for Y. I want to see all the steps that you did. Type it in. If it's wrong, try D. Okay, now if your answer is A, that's all you got to do. You don't need to do B, C, and D, but honestly, I don't remember what the answer is. So, I want to see the work for every one that you have to try, how you solve for Y, so that I can see where you're messing up and how we can fix it. Okay, and that's why there's only one, because it could be a lot of work, or it could be A. I'm not sure, honestly, but you just have one question. So pause it, show me how you solve for Y, graph them, see which one's right. If you missed number 15, write down what you think the correct answer should have been and why you missed it. And then we're going to ignore this part because I just told you you can just stop as soon as you find the answer. But I do want to see the steps that you did to solve for Y on the ones that you have to do. 16, if you missed number 16, I want you to pause it and I want you to write down everything on this page. Everything. Write it down. All right, so slope formula. If you need the actual formula, it's y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it's a rise over run. All right. So this problem is actually really easy. Once I explain to you how to do it, you're going to be like, oh man, yeah, that's not too bad. So it's rise over run. So how much did this rise? It rose 20, so that's on top. Over what it runs, it ran 5. And then you just divide them. You would just do 20 divided by 5. So what's the slope? The slope is 4. You should have that written down in your notes. This one, a kite falls at a rate. All right, so if it's falling, that means it's going to be -3. If it's falling, it's going down. That means it's going to be -3. And it runs every 5 seconds. So let's divide those. -3 divided by 5. We get a decimal, which we do not want. So to change it to a fraction, you hit math, enter, enter. So this is your slope, -3 fifths. So if you missed number 16, I want you to find the answers to the following problems. You do not have to write the problem down. So number 1, you can just tell me what the answer is. Remember, it's rise over run. So 1, 2, 3, 4, do these 4 problems. You do not have to write down the problems. You can just tell me what the answer to 1 is, what the answer to 2 is, what the answer to 3 is. So pause it, do these 4. If you missed number 16, write down what you think the correct answer should have been and why you think you missed it.